Hello and welcome. This is Teresa Litchfield. I thought it would be fun to share a technique using cover or background dies that give a 3D dimension to them. This is a card I created for the New Educator Instagram hub. There are so many great ways to use your cover dies, and this is just another way to get more uses out of them. This technique can be used with any background die that cuts the image out. I really wanted to use the new radial butterflies cover die from New that came out a few days ago. I thought this would be really great for this technique, and I'm going to use the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 white cardstock panel and run that through my die cut machine with the embossing mat. You want to have one panel that's embossed with the image, and the other panel I'm going to ink blend that with the Canyon clay. I just love this color and I've been wanting to use it. So I'm going to ink blend that with my large blending tool, and I'm using the Waffle Flower Water Media mat. I like that mat because it will hold the paper down without moving it. And I just go around the whole panel, and I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter in the center. You can decide how dark or light you want to keep this, and I just take the ink from the media mat onto the paper when I need it. But I just keep going around, and like I said, I make it a little bit darker on the edges than the center, and that just gives a variance of color. I just love that ink. I think it's so pretty. I'm going to cut that out with the cover die now, and I save the pieces just because I'm not sure quite what I'm going to do. But I'm going to take the impressed piece now. I'm going to use some artist markers, and I'm going to use the new F set, which is called Sunshine Valley Garden, and I'm going to use some of the pinks and the yellows from the set. I'm not quite sure how I ever got along without the colors from this set. I'm going to use a couple of the orange colors. I'm going to use Autumn Blaze and Perfect Peach. Starting with Fresh Lemon, I'm going to color in the impressed images on this panel, and you really want to color in the whole thing and a little bit beyond it. So when you put the cover die on top of it, you're not going to see any white showing through. The second color is Maple Yellow, just a little bit darker than the first one, and I'm going to go around the circle there, and they just get a little bit bigger as you go on. Now I am transitioning to my peach colors, and this is Perfect Peach, so that'll be my next one. There's a little butterfly between the large ones on this row, and also on the rows after this. But on this row, you'll see I colored one in, and I'll come back and show a trick that I do. This color is on a blaze, and I'll go around this row, and there's just partial butterflies on this one. So on this next row, I'm skipping a pink, and I'm going right for the Pinkalicious, which is brighter. The color I skipped was Pink Diamond, and you'll see what I do with that. So going back to that peach row where I did the Perfect Peach first, I'm going over the top of it with the Pink Diamond, and it makes a whole new color. So that's a way to get new colors that you don't have. You can combine them and make something different. After I'm done coloring with the artist markers, I'm going to cover that panel with some Nouveau glimmer paste, and this is Moonstone. I really love the shine that it has, and I'm going to just put on an even amount with my palette knife. And after I'm done covering that, I'm going to let that dry for a couple of hours, and sometimes I'll let it dry overnight depending on how much is applied. When you put the cutout piece over the top of the colored one, you can see how much sparkle you get. I just love that. And I glued it together, and now I'm just going to cut off the overhang. And I cut it off from the front and angle my scissors a little bit so you don't see any of that behind. And you can see I've got some vellum butterflies there. I cut those out thinking I was going to use them, and I ended up not using those. I'm going to put my sentiment where that circle is on the front, and I'm going to use the Illusion Heart die set. And I'm just going to use the heart. I cut that once from a light peach shimmer cardstock from Memory Box, and then twice from a white cardstock. And I popped the pieces back in, so it's really got some dimension to that. For the actual sentiment, I'm going to use the Hello and Hugs die, and I'm just going to use the die and not the stamp set. And I'll cut the shadow out of vellum and the actual word out of white. I'll ink blend that. But on the vellum, I take my Autumn Blaze marker. I'm going to color on the back of that and just swipe it across. And I'll let that dry a bit before I cut it out. But it just really gives a really cool look. I'll do some ink blending again with the Canyon Clay ink. And by the way, this is from the new Martian Terrain ink set. I do this often when I just really want to match up colors. And then I'll cut that out and it'll match up perfectly. I also cut out 2 from white, so I stacked up the vellum and then 2 white, and then the colored one I ink blended on top, and I offset them all. I'm going to add some of the Nouveau crystal glaze to that, and that'll just give it a lot of shine. So I let that dry overnight. And now the card just has so much sparkle and shine to it. I just really loved how it turned out. There are so many ways to use your background dyes, and this was just another way to add lots of color and sparkle, which I think adds to the dimension. I hope this technique gave you some different ideas to use your background dyes. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate you giving me a thumbs up, and while you're at it, subscribe and ring the bell. As always, I really appreciate the time you spent with me. Here's a couple other videos you might enjoy. Thank you so much, and I really hope you have a great day doing something you love.